Most people picture quantum computers as incredibly fast laptops from the future, but that's not even close to what they are. Ever wonder why tech companies keep hyping quantum computing, but your devices haven't changed at all? Today, I'll explain quantum computing like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand exactly what quantum computers can and can't do, and why your laptop will never be one of them. Your laptop runs on bits, and every photo, every email, every word in every document, all of it is made of bits. A bit is just a switch, off or on, 0 or 1, that's it. Every app you've ever used, every video game ever made, billions of tiny switches flipping on and off incredibly fast. Simple enough, but here's where it gets strange. A quantum bit, called a qubit, can be 0 or 1 or both at the same time. That's what every article says, both at the same time. And then people nod along like they understood it, and they didn't. Let's actually fix that, starting with a spinning coin. Imagine you're flipping a coin. While it's spinning in the air, before it lands, it's not heads and it's not tails. It's in a state of possibility, and the moment it hits the table, it collapses into one answer. A qubit is like a coin you can do math on while it's still spinning. You can run calculations on the possibilities, all of them, at once, before the coin ever lands. That's called superposition. And that's the first genuinely weird thing quantum computers actually do. What makes this so powerful isn't just that the qubit holds multiple states. It's that every calculation you run operates across all those states simultaneously. So as you add more qubits, the number of possibilities you can process doesn't just grow, it explodes exponentially. 2 qubits cover 4 states, 3 cover 8, 50 qubits cover over a quadrillion states at once. That exponential scaling is the entire reason quantum computing is worth pursuing at all. And it's also why the engineering challenge of controlling those states is so brutally difficult. The more qubits you add, the more ways the whole thing can fall apart. But there's a second thing called entanglement, and it's just as strange. When 2 qubits are entangled, measuring one instantly tells you something about the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He spent years trying to prove it wasn't real, and he was wrong. Quantum computers use entanglement to link qubits together in ways that let them explore enormous numbers of possibilities in parallel, in a way regular computers fundamentally cannot. Think of it like this. Your laptop checks every door in a building, one at a time. A quantum computer checks all the doors simultaneously, and entanglement is what lets the doors talk to each other, sharing information across the entire search instantly. So if quantum computers can do all that, why can't they just replace your laptop? Here's the twist. Superposition only works while the qubit is undisturbed. The second anything touches it, heat, vibration, a stray electromagnetic field, the coin lands. The calculation collapses, the quantum state vanishes, and this breakdown is called decoherence. It's why quantum computers operate at temperatures near absolute zero. The quantum processors at IBM and Google run at around 0.015 Kelvin. The coldest natural temperature in the known universe, deep outer space, is 2.7 Kelvin. These machines are colder than outer space, inside a lab on Earth, requiring enormous refrigeration systems. And that's a thermometer reading, not a metaphor. Even vibrations from nearby foot traffic or fluctuations in the electrical grid can ruin a calculation entirely. Your laptop runs at room temperature, in your bag, while playing Spotify and running 47 Chrome tabs. These are not comparable machines. They are built for completely different jobs under completely different conditions. Here's the honest picture of what quantum computers are actually good at. Certain problems that would take a regular computer longer than the age of the universe, a quantum computer can potentially crack in hours. Not because it's faster, but because it searches in a fundamentally different way. Think about finding one specific page in a library with 1,000,000 books. Your laptop opens every book, one at a time. A quantum computer explores all the possibilities in parallel rather than one by one. That's genuinely useful for specific things. Breaking encryption, simulating molecules for drug discovery, optimizing massive logistics networks. But here's what that list doesn't include. Writing emails, playing video games, running Excel, watching Netflix. Everything you do on your laptop every day benefits from being fast, stable, and reliable, not from exploring billions of possibilities at once. Asking a quantum computer to write a document is like hiring a Formula One car to take your kids to soccer practice. Technically impressive, Completely wrong tool. There's a phrase researchers use for this: quantum advantage. It doesn't mean quantum computers win at everything. It means there's a specific class of problem, structured, mathematical, high-complexity problems with millions of possible solutions, where quantum approaches beat classical ones. Outside that class, your laptop wins every time, by a lot, with less electricity, without needing a cryogenic cooling system the size of a small shed. Here's where we actually are right now, in 2025. The best quantum computers in the world have a few hundred to a few thousand qubits. Sounds like a lot. But because of decoherence and error rates, most of those qubits are spent correcting mistakes the other qubits make. Imagine trying to do long division while your pencil randomly changes the numbers, and you need a second pencil just to check whether the first pencil was lying. Now imagine you need 10 pencils just to do the work of one reliable one. That's quantum computing today. Researchers call this the noisy intermediate scale quantum era, NISQ for short, which is science's way of saying, we know it works in theory, it works in small experiments, and we are working very hard on making it work at scale. The error correction problem isn't just an engineering inconvenience, it's a fundamental challenge baked into the physics. To run one reliable logical qubit, you might need anywhere from 100 to 1,000 physical qubits behind the scenes, catching and fixing each other's errors. The machines that exist today have thousands of physical qubits total. Fault-tolerant quantum computing, capable of real-world advantage at scale, likely needs millions. That gap is enormous. Practical quantum computing that could crack modern encryption is probably still 10 to 20 years away. Maybe more. Maybe less if something clicks. But it's not here. The headlines suggesting otherwise are running ahead of the physics. Now here's the part worth sitting with. The encryption protecting your passwords, your bank account, your private messages, it was designed with classical computers in mind. It's built on math problems that would take a classical computer longer than the age of the universe to brute force. A sufficiently powerful quantum computer changes that equation completely. And here's the thing that rarely gets mentioned. You don't have to wait for the quantum computer to exist to be at risk. Governments and well-resourced organizations can collect encrypted data right now, today, store it, and decrypt it later once the hardware catches up. Researchers call this harvest now, decrypt later. Your messages from 2025 could be readable in 2035. The lock is still on the door. Someone is already copying the door. This is why the race to build post-quantum encryption standards isn't abstract. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, finalized the first post-quantum cryptographic standards in 2024. Publishing 3 algorithms designed to resist quantum attacks. Banks, governments, and major tech platforms are quietly beginning the switch. You won't notice it happen, but it's happening because the people who understand the timeline take it seriously. The transition won't be instantaneous. Updating the cryptographic infrastructure underlying the entire internet is a years-long process. But the urgency is real, and the work has already started. So here's what you now understand that most people don't. This was never a speed race. Quantum computers aren't trying to outfast your laptop. They're a completely different tool, built for a narrow class of problems your laptop handles badly, and useless for everything your laptop does well. The reason they'll never sit in your bag isn't a temporary engineering limitation. It's fundamental physics. They need to be colder than outer space to function at all. Your laptop is optimized for stability, and quantum computers are optimized for possibility. And those are completely different jobs. The line between them isn't going to blur. It's going to get clearer. The real question worth leaving you with: if the encryption protecting every message you've ever sent could eventually be broken, and someone is already collecting that data right now, waiting for the hardware to exist, what does that mean for the conversations you're having today?